Twitter sent. Freaking. Yep, of course. Okay, timeout. Gotta restart this. I forgot to restart my web browser before the stream, and then I did it, but I didn't send out my tweet and I didn't copy it, so of course it lost what my content was. The Texas game Devstream is now live. Working on more woods art today. 50% less Maya embarrassment. Come watch. Alright, sorry about that. It was rather embarrassing. Let's get that Twitter sent out. Get the stream. Oh, man, everything's going to be thrown way off. Streamlabs is on. Let's get the bot in here, and let's get the Discord taken care of. Oof. That was just an ordeal. Alright, so, hello everyone. This is Chris Ingerson, and it is August 8th, and this is the August 8th TextQuest Devstream. So today, we are going to be working on some art. Specifically, we are going to be doing the art that I meant to do on Tuesday, but I had not opened Maya in forever, and therefore I was quite embarrassed when I tried to do so. I did figure out how to actually properly project my UVs on all this stuff again. Apologies for everyone who was watching me, and just that massive amount of embarrassment that I had on Tuesday. I've not actually done the re-UV. Well, so I have projected all the UVs, but I have not repositioned them yet. And that's because we need to finish work on this. And one of the things that I want to do, I can't get trunk to work. It's a 5-letter word. I have 8 spaces. There's no good way to fit 5 into 8 evenly. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, instead of doing trunk like this, I think we're going to have ivy be pretty much everywhere on. Oops, actually, let's go ahead and put these. Ivy is pretty much going to be everywhere instead of having trunk be there on the bottom. It's just going to be a bunch of ivy that's growing along the bottom. You can kind of see this currently if we select. You can see that it says trunk there, but you can see the ivy is growing along here. So I think what my plan is basically to have a more dense version of this, so that we can basically have the entire bottom be covered in ivy, and then the top will just be kind of left to its own devices. So we won't be able to see trunk anymore, but that's fine. It kind of sucks that that's the case, but I don't really know a better way to do this. So one of the fun things about this is it's going to change the texture a fair amount. I think I'm going to have basically two. So I'm going to have ancient and tree still, but in addition to that, I'm also going to have a second set of ancient and tree, and those are going to have ivy growing all over them. So it's just going to be a little bit of a fun, weird thing to do, I guess. So basically, the external parts of the tree is going to have ivy growing all over it, while the internal parts will not. So it's a pretty straightforward approach, I feel. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start by redoing the texture a little bit. Currently, if we were to look at this, I believe we look at this way. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck this. So you can see that we have ancient tree. Well, we have ancient and tree. Those are the two columns that we have. I think we can scoot this particular set of. So we can scoot ancient over a little bit, scoot tree over a smidge as well, and then we'll have room for these two. We don't have to scoot them over much because we don't really need much room. We just need room for basically a second set of these. And then we can get things working again. So let's go ahead and we are going to come over to here. If I'm smart, which I'm not, so, let's go ahead and let's see if I can find this first of all. Yeah, So these are the ancient tree UVs. I'm going to try to use these as a kind of like guide for how to position this stuff. So you can see that that's there. We're just going to put this way below everything else, which is probably going to make it go away, which probably means I need to put it like here-ish. So that's fine. So that's where our UVs are roughly going to be. And I was right. You can see that we have a fair amount of white space to the left and to the center here. So I'm just going to scoot those over. We're going to try to keep the trunks roughly in the same spot here. At least that's the plan. So let's go ahead, select you. And we're just going to move this over. Well, let's see. So we need about that much space. We need about 25 pixels from the left. So that means probably somewhere around here. Just subtract 45. That seems about right. We should be good there. So we're gonna move this over. Minus 45. Okay, pretty close. Actually, we're gonna go ahead and say minus 8 pixels. That's probably enough. And then we can basically duplicate these two things. So I'm going to go ahead and layer these. Put this in. I'm going to say exterior. Go ahead and copy these. We're going to duplicate this. Man, I wish I remembered. There we go. Duplicate exterior. We're going to make these interior. And we're just going to drag these over to here-ish. I think that's about right. All right. Oof. Actually, I feel like this can go over just a smidge more. There we go. So let's go ahead and get some precise movements on here. Plus, I don't know what, 10. Yeah. So that looks to be about equidistant, roughly. And if there's some amount of overlap, that's fine, because you'll notice that on the actual tree here, which I'll probably just drag in here to make things easy. On the actual tree, there is a fair amount of white space that we need on either side of the lettering. So if there's a little bit of overlap in those UVs, it won't cause a problem, because it should basically just look normal. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to select all of these fun things so that I can get all of this fun stuff taken care of, so I don't have to worry about it again. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to come back to here. We have our trees now, so we can go ahead and say two things. One, we're going to get rid of this trunk. I'm not going to bother with it. And then we can go over into ivy, which is going to be a little bit more difficult to deal with. So the way that the ivy works, I'm going to go ahead and open up Substance actually to show you. The way that ivy works is basically we have, well, so this Substance works by having two primary maps, a map for wood and an SVG map for ivy. We do everything else with, let's go ahead and open this up. We do everything else with Substance directly, so we can go ahead and say, you can see that we have kind of these vein effects on the ivy. That's not from the photo, or not from our maps. That's just from me manually using this cell procedural noise to basically fill that in. And then we basically, like I said, everything is kind of derived from these particular maps. So all that's really going to change is the ivy map is going to become more detailed instead of just having a little tiny splotch. It's going to have a lot more ivy. And the wood map is going to get those 2 extra spots with some ivy growing over it. Although actually the wood map's not going to have that ivy, it's going to be the ivy map that has it. So we're going to go ahead and pop back into Illustrator. I'm going to turn off the background here, which is going to make things a little awkward. Actually, can I do opacity on you? Because that would be great. No, not gonna give that to me. Hold on here. Nope, I guess it's just hue saturation. Well, it's just RGB. I don't have alpha values, which kind of sucks. Okay. Well, I guess I'm kind of just stuck with that then. I'm actually kind of curious. I'm just curious if I can even do an alpha on this. Because it's possible that Illustrator actually does not support. Okay, good. I'm glad that I was just being stupid there. Let's see. Window transparency. Ah, yeah. Like lower you to 50. There we go. That makes things a lot easier. So we'll do that then. Okay, that's all I needed. So with that, I can now pretty easily adjust our IVs. So let's go ahead and this is going to be a little awkward. We're going to create a subgroup here. I'm going to grab all of these things. So I don't want to have the exact same pattern, but I have to have variations. So all of my variations need to be able to permeate to 2 variations on the tree. So the way that this is currently set up, let's go ahead and see what we're looking at here. All right, so we have tree. Okay, so it's the center one is mapped to ancient, and the rear one is mapped to tree, or the first one on the left. Okay, so just make sure that maps up. Tree, ancient, tree, ancient, tree, ancient, tree. Okay, good. So basically, these ones are going to have to map cleanly to this bit of ivy, whereas these ones will have to map to ancient. So that just means that I can have any ivy pattern I want. They just need to make sure that their ivy lines up with the ancient, or the ivy that's on ancient, or tree, basically. So we're going to go ahead and let's see here. I'm going to grab this. We're going to duplicate this group. I'm going to call this left. No, not center left. Well, all right, fine. We'll say base 0, 1. And then let's go ahead and drag that over to here. We're going to zoom in a little bit. You're fine for now. We're probably going to mostly try to focus on this stuff being in the center. I should not. Well, man, that complicates things. Okay. So I don't really need these things to overlap, and that's good because if they're not overlapping, then it lets me take full advantage of the UV space here. So real quick, we're probably going to re-UV this real quick just to get things lined up. That way I can move the UVs around and export new guides to make things a little bit easier on myself. So we're going to go ahead and just grab this. let's go ahead and first things first, we are going to split the UV all along here. So we're going to grab this. I'm going to put this all the way up here so that I can easily split it. We're going to select our edges. All right, and now we want to basically cut it at those edges, which should be this one. Okay, so now if I grab this and drag it around, it's independent of all the other ones. That's good, that's what we wanted. I think you're not at a good angle. Or are you? I actually thought that 45 degrees is correct. Let's see. Yeah, this is an octagon, so the angles inside should be 45 degrees roughly. But that does not look correct, which is unfortunate. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this. I'm going to rotate. Rotate. I'm going to kind of bring these together real quick. I wonder, these should be the exact same, actually. Shouldn't they? It shouldn't matter too much, honestly, at the end of the day. But we're going to go ahead and grab this face, drag this down to here. Just kind of trying to get these to roughly line up. Like that. Alright. So we're going to get you to rotate a little bit. And then maybe it's 45.5. Why are you at a weird angle like that? Oh, maybe it has to do with how I did the projections on them. I tried to get a more flat projection, but that involved me rotating, and that might have thrown off some of the projections. So, like, if I rotate to here. Ugh. Yeah. I hate that it's, like, close, but not close enough. That makes it gross. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and these two should basically be lined up, and then these two should basically be lined up. Then we're going to go ahead and grab both of you. I guess we'll just rotate. Okay, so let's go ahead, slide these over, grab both of them, slide them down to here. Okay, grab all of these, and where is it? It's at the bottom there. Okay, so this has to go down to here. Then we're going to go ahead and select all of this stuff real quick. So the only parts that are really not on there need to come off to here. And the rest of yous can just shove off over here temporarily. All right, so we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to grab this. We're going to put these here. If we come up to our top, you'll see that they now say cut. But they are slightly too big, so we're going to go ahead and select all this again, turn off shading, and then I'm going to scale this ever so slightly. Move this up to here, and boom. That is what that looks like. So it's a little rough, I feel, but it is pretty solid overall. And if we wanted to, we could probably shrink this just a smidge more, just to get things looking right. All right, that looks pretty good. Probably we can centralize this just a smidge more, something like that. All right, so now we don't have any obvious gaps in there. Not that it really matters. No one's ever really supposed to get up there, but I am obsessive. So we're going to go ahead and move this up to here. We're going to move this over to here. I'm going to grab this. This is going to rotate 90 degrees. That is an S. That is upside down. Yep. So this has to rotate 180 degrees. Yep, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to basically just scale these three up. So we're going to just kind of go up right about there. Okay. And these clearly have to scale down slightly. Slightly, ever so slightly. Right about there. Okay, we're going to put you over to here. So now that says cavity. It is projected. It is a little distorted, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's not terrible. I'll move you down just a smidge so that you're in the center more. All right, just out of curiosity, I want to make sure that this is kind of how I approached it here. It is, it's a little distorted, but it's not super noticeable, so. All right, we are going to let's go ahead and jump back here to Maya. I'm going to try to separate these things. So let's go ahead and just grab all of these. Just going to grab all of these. Put that all together. All right. So now we have everything. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and grab you. Rotate you 180 degrees. We have a couple of weird stragglers that are very unfortunate. Okay. Basically just trying to make sure that we don't have any weird parts that look like they're on bottom that are actually on top. Okay. So let's go ahead and select this. This definitely needs to be rotated about to there. Save that. All right, so now begins the fun process of actually sorting these things. Although before we do that, let's try to sort these into parts that are inside versus outside. So I think it's pretty safe to say, go ahead and drag these all to the left. So like any part that's outside is going to be way far left here. Versus any part that's inside, which is going to be on the right. Alright, so I think you're the outside one. Yeah. Thank you, Windows. Speaking of thanking Windows, the Windows update for this fall has rolled around and it's kind of made things a little weird. Not terribly so. Mostly I've noticed minor icon updates. But let's see, go around here. Okay, so is that 8, 2, 4, 6, so, oh right, one of these. I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay. So there we go. We now have our inner and outer parts separated. Put you over here. All right. So we can more easily try to position this now. So the main thing that we want to do to start is we need to separate all of these edges. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just slice those off. So now we should be able to move these independent. Nice. And all I'm going to do there is I'm just going to position them along the bottom here. I believe that all of these are the same size. So as long as I can prove that, I think I can just kinda cheat. Cool. So these basically should all have the exact same UVs. I don't think that there's any variation on it, which means that I can basically just do this. So we are going to slam those up and then slam those up. So those are all lined up. Let's go ahead and grab these. Try to space these out a little bit better. All right. So let's put these in order first. So left to the right, to the farther right, to the center, to the right of that. Okay. All right. So that is wrapped away right here. Let's try to get these lined up and taking up as much space as possible without actually overlapping. Which I think I definitely did. All right, we got plenty of room then. Actually gives us lots of space to kind of put some padding between them even, which is always nice. All right. So that's all of our trunks in order. The next thing we need to do is sort these out. So this one was tree. Ancient tree, ancient, yep. Okay. And let's see here. We're kind of going to keep going until we can find order. Let's see. Nope. 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 Wow, that took forever. All right. Hmm? Oh, right. Okay, so we're going to move these over. Move this over to here. Put you over here. Put you over to here. Put you over to here. And you right there. All right. With you being in the center. I probably, so let's go ahead and grab these. So I'm going to say edge. I'm going to grab, that didn't work. I'm going to grab these two things. And we're going to cut those off. And then we're also going to go ahead and grab these two things. I keep doing that. Grab these two things. We're going to cut them off. All right. So now I can freely move these things. And we're probably just going to fill these with ivy as well, just to kind of fill that gap. Currently, if you look at it, we just shoved nothing there, which doesn't look terrible, but we can do better than that. So we'll put some ivy on there then. So let's jump back here. Actually, we'll jump back here real quick. I'm not too concerned with these being set up yet. I think the main thing I need to do is I need to get the trunk and these guys taken care of. So let's go ahead and we're just going to put, right, you're going to be there now. So that's where I was previously doing them, but I've got plenty of room up here that I can use. So let's go ahead and pop back over here. I'm actually going to put these in kind of weird spots, like they're going to be spread out like this. Something like that. So they are not grouped together anymore, but they don't have to be. So I'm going to try. We can probably scale those up, actually. That's a good question. Mm-hmm. Trying to maximize scale here so that we can, work with as much texturing as possible, or as much texture space as possible. So this ivy had lots and lots and lots of space, which still seems to be the case. So we're not too worried about that then. Oh yeah, we're good. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna pop back over to here. For sake of cohesion, I can't actually scale these ones up without scaling these up. Otherwise, it'll have noticeably different resolution. So we are going to instead. I guess I could blow these up slightly. I don't really want to do that though. All right. So this is a pretty good spot, I think. So let's go ahead and this is on the inside. Which the inside we might just leave blank, but the upper side, or the outside, I think we're going to try to have ivy growing on it. Okay, so that is basically mapped to the right of this. So that should work. Okay. Man, that is going to be awkward. It would be a lot easier if I... Yeah, okay. So this one goes here. I'm going to scrunch these up so that I can move these two down to the bottom to be in line with the others. So let's see, this is the center one, so let's try bringing it close together. A little bit of overlap should be okay, I just don't want to go too crazy with it. That's going to let me bring this down, which should be the same height again, so let's actually just go ahead and do that. So we're going to grab you. We're going to grab verts, grab you, oh wait, I'm sorry, UVs. Grab you, grab you. We're just going to say slam up and slam up. Okay. So we want you to be a little bit of overlap right there is probably okay, and I don't really want to go out beyond that. We're going to move this over. Shrink you in a smidge, shrink you in a smidge, and just a little bit. Okay. That makes things a little bit more rough. I think we'll be okay. It's going to be all kinds of weird. Crazy about that. I also wish I knew why this one was so different, but whatever. I would have thought that they were pretty much the same, but they do not seem to be. Or it could be that actually they are, and I think they are, and I just positioned this one first. So this amount of overlap should be fine. I might shift everything over just a little bit to make the overlap less major on one side. So now we have just basically I just need to avoid the bottom here when doing overlaps, which is fine, I think. All right, so we have the important bits UV'd out. Let's go ahead and save this. And then I'm going to go ahead and, if I can remember how to do this. Let's see, select polygons, export, UV snapshot, there we go. Browse to here. Go to overworld, woods, final, and we'll just put it here. Tree, UV. 1024 by 1024 is fine. Let's go ahead Seriously? Why? Whatever. I have to do that and then hit export. That's so weird. Whatever. All right, so there's our tree UV. Nice. Now we can pop back over to here. I can drag that in here. We're just going to put you right there. Okay, I'm going to put you there. I am going to turn off. Are you serious? You're going to give me that? I love that I can't. Oy. I love that I can't turn it off if everything's locked. Because go figure. All right, so that is pretty good. Everything's lining up pretty nicely. Gonna have to make sure that those actually line up. They're different sized. These two are fine. I'll probably move them a little bit closer. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and grab. Right. We're gonna put this down to here, and we're just gonna lock that so that I don't have to worry about accidentally moving it. All right. So the center is right here. We're just gonna move this down a little bit. This is a 1024 by 1024 picture. Trying to think about what resolution we're working at here. That's 9. So it's 470 by 985. Of course, you're not going to tell me that now. You're just going to tell me that over here. Ugh. I wish I had my pixel grids. I'm so used to Photoshop that Illustrator is just super weird to me. Okay. So I'm just going to do this real quick. I'm just going to make a shape. How big are you? 74 by about 150. Okay. So on the whole, that probably means that I have a little under 200. Oh no, it's about 150. So about 130 by 150 to work with, which is decent chunk. But I am a little torn. I don't like having my ivy be this big. To give you a sense, this is what this looks like. This ivy looks like. So you can see here that the ivy is a lot larger on the tree, more so than it is on my stone fence here. To get around that, well, we have two problems. First, one, we need to look at this base here. So this is the texture for that, versus the texture that we're using for the tree. You can see that the ivy is much smaller. Well, I suppose much is a bit of a stretch, but it is smaller, which means that the resolution we're working with is a little bit smaller. The actual texture sizes are the same, but because the ivy in this particular pattern is much larger percentage-wise, it comes out a little bit more clear. And I would like, so even though I would like to actually work with this and make these be smaller bits of ivy, unfortunately, I don't think that is actually possible. They have to be this big because that's how big it is. It's already tiny. I can try to make these smaller, but that's going to make things a lot more difficult for me. Actually, I suppose I can be clever with this. So I have laid everything, I laid each one of the bases out to have its own particular design. I could probably consolidate those so these 3 would be together and these 4 would be together as well. That works with the with what I was saying before, where I need to make sure that my patterns match up. And if I do that, I can probably scale up a little bit on the UV size, and then I don't really have to worry about running out of space necessarily. I'll probably have to shift some things around, but that does give me a lot more room to work with. So I'm going to try that. So let's go ahead and grab faces. I'm just going to grab these four, move them off to the side, and then we're just going to go ahead and say UV. Boop. We're just going to do this all at once, which is going to be fun. So these are all lined up vertically already. So fortunately, I don't really need to do much there. All right. So now this is all four of those. Before I get too excited, let's go ahead and I'm going to grab you, and you. We're just going to say move all the way to the right. All right. So now I've basically compressed all of those down to two separate things that I can design, which gives me. So here's the problem. They're fairly uniform in shape, which means I need a fairly uniform space to put them, which is awkward. I think I could do that if I were to say, if I were to try and compress these two things together, like I can probably stack these vertically, these two cavities, and I could move cut to also be rotated and fit in here. Same with basil. I think I can get those all basically working in one spot. That would work pretty well. That would leave it open for me to actually. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that works. So this is going to be clearly I'm getting sucked back into my old ways. So this is going to be a single art asset episode, I'm pretty sure. Let's see here. So, because I'm going to need to basically completely refit this. So I think what my plan is going to be is I'm going to move these things down to be here, and I'm going to move these up to take up these spots. So I need. Ah, crap. Of course. So this is going to be on both spots now, which is a little unfortunate. Oh, that really sucks. Okay. All right. So I'm probably actually going to do this. I'm going to shove this off to the side. I'm going to grab these two and move them to be their own thing, which is actually going to go over here. So I'm going to put these. So I'm going to have three designs that I work with. Oh, crap. Hold on. There we go. Sorry. So we're going to have these designs and these designs. So I'm going to have three separate designs that I work with. Because the ones that are on the edges here, I want them to be able to connect to the entrance triangles here to give it some ivy. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and move this. So these are that. So we're going to grab this, shove this over to here. I'm going to select you. I'm going to move this over to here. Oh, really? That doesn't seem right, but okay. Oh, right, yeah, because this needs to, they need to be facing like this. All right. So it's a little awkward, but I think we can work with it. Okay. So let's try re-exporting this again, but with these all repositioned, I suppose. So this was the exterior, I believe. Yep. Cool. So we're gonna try to position these all now. They will not perfectly line up, but all that matters is that their bottoms line up roughly. So let's go ahead and grab these. think that's okay. We'll see. I don't think that this. Yeah, the only time that it's perfect is on the far back. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Oops, wrong thing. Oh, why did I do that? Anyway. Crud. Well, fine. That's okay. So I'm just gonna kind of move everything along. I know that I'm gonna have to separate them in a little bit, but that's fine. Basically, just trying to make sure that the bottoms largely line up. Hmm. Okay. You here, and the last thing we need is right here. Wow, that is like terrible. Ugh. Alright, so that means we're going to have some fun times here. Let's go ahead and we're just going to try to position these things. Of course, they don't line up, which makes things just so much fun. The outside needs to be scaled up. Frack. Alright, let's go ahead and just scale you up. This back one is the one that we're looking at. It's too much. What about there, I think? Oh, okay. So, huh. Cool. You projected differently because of course you did. You wanted me to suffer. Grab these ones. They are clearly scaled too big. They need to be brought back down. Okay, that's about correct. Probably shrink it just a smidge more to try to make it slightly more correct. Nope, too much. Cool. Ugh. It's okay. These ones are tree anyway, so I can just move these over to here. Okay, so that turned out pretty well. Okay. So we're going to want to do a couple of things. One, we're going to save this, and two, now we need to organize this. Trying to think about how to best handle this. Okay, I'm going to grab this. We're going to slide these all over to here for now. Just put these out of the way. So this was the exterior, which of course never fully lines up, which is fine. But is it though? Yeah, I guess it is. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and we are going to one make sure that all of those are right words, and then two, I'm going to go ahead and put this together. I believe that the shortest is also ancient. Yeah. So they line up inside and out. Okay. So let's go ahead and try to put this in order then. Well, that is clearly not correct, but okay. I'm going to, I guess, group these things by whichever one they went to. It's convenient. Put you over here. Put you over there. Put you over there. And put you over there. Okay. Well, that worked out great. Let's go ahead and we are going to grab this. We're going to slide this over to there. I'm going to grab this, slide you over to there as well. And then we're going to grab you. And what did I do before? I'm reasonably sure that it was the same thing where they all should start at the bottom roughly. Oof, which really makes that look awkward. But not as awkward as the realization that I shouldn't have separated its children or its feet, because that actually would be a good spot for them. So that's a thing. We're going to go ahead and put you back here, I guess, and just go through that very, very painful process of trying to just manually reposition these things. Okay. Ah, man. Yep. We're just going to drag this over to here. I don't want to have these be on different heights because I know that they're already correct. Alright. Drag this to about there. And drag this to roughly right there. Okay. So, with that, go ahead and come over to here. Okay. Alright, so this will go on ancient, probably somewhere around here. I guess for now I can just kind of put it right here to make sure that everything lines up properly. I need some more white space at the top there. Okay, yeah, they need to be a little bit higher. So a slight scale up to about here, I think. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, and then we're just going to go ahead and drag that off to the right, roughly, right about there. Okay, let's put these all over to here. Man, this is going to be super awkward. All right. I think this is roughly analogous to this, so I'm going to do that. This is going to be a little awkward, but I think we'll be fine. So I'm going to grab you, and I'm going to grab you, and I'm just going to say slam down, you, and you. I'm just going to say slam down, you and you, slam down, finally, you and you. All right. So these should all be on the same spot, basically, now. Okay. All right. Grabbing this. We're pushing this, and it's already bigger than the previous one, apparently, which is a little awkward. I'm trying to take a look at all this. Trying to bring this roughly in scale with the other one, which I think puts me like right about here-ish. It was about right. All right, so it's looking pretty good. I think it's about on par with what we were doing before. Yep. So if I were to drag these back over to here, roughly. It's about, yeah, about there. And what do you look like here? All right, it's not too bad. Probably do something like that so it's a little bit higher up, but not by much. It's really hard to tell, but I think that there is some amount of skewing on this, which is unfortunate. Yeah, we're just getting a fair amount of warping on that. Doesn't look too bad on the right, but on the left it feels a lot more noticeable. Well, in any case. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of things. One, I'm going to highlight all of this. I'm going to move it back over to here. Two, I'm going to highlight all of this. I'm going to move it over to here. Okay. And then I'm going to grab all of these, and I'm going to move them slightly left. So we're right about there. I'm going to move these way closer, actually, because I have a lot more room to work than I thought. So I'm going to try to space these out. Move that to there, roughly. And like I said, my idea is to basically move these to be down here and these to take up these spaces. So let's see if we can get that to look right. I'm going to grab you, rotate you. This is going to make things awkward. So we're going to do something like this. It's basically going to be a frickin' chevron. Okay. So we're going to put this down to here. I'm going to grab this. We're just going to move this down to here. And that leaves you, basal, which I think will fit there. Yep, that looks good. So it's problematic. Ah, yes, that is problematic, isn't it? The grain of the wood is important to consider here. Um, I need this grain for the basil to be going vertically like it is now, but I need the grain on this to be going vertically as well, which is problematic. No, that won't work. Would it? No. I was going to try to... Well, maybe. This is the left one. So we're going to grab these. Rotate them again. I'm going to real quick, position them again. Put this over to here, roughly. And just out of curiosity, can I have them crisscross at... Nah, I can't. They're not steep enough. Oh well. I was hoping I could, like, have them share the V, and the C and the A would be far enough apart. Unfortunately, that does not seem to be the case, so... Alright. So these guys need to be vertical. I want this to be vertical as well. Puts it more in line with you. Okay. I suppose I could try to do this. So we're gonna grab these things. I'm gonna put this like right here. I'm gonna put this right here. So that lets me position that at least a little bit better. I just awkwardly have to have a mask for this UV, I guess. That's going to be this little like angle down here. That'll let me mask out the rotation. It's not the end of the world. Okay, so now I have all of this space to work with for these guys. So let's go ahead and grab you. I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to put this up here. So, well, actually, that might be possible too. So we're just going to scale this up a fair amount, like roughly there. Let's see if that gives us noticeable resolution differences. It is freaking ridiculous. Hold on here. I'm going to put this over to the left real quick. And then I'm going to go just real quick into this freaking Fong shader. This is ridiculous. Crank that specular down so it's not blasting me. Even that's still atrocious. There. Like a subtle effect is fine, but geez, I do not need it to be that noticeable. All right. So I don't think that is bad. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks fine. So that leaves... Let's go ahead and pull this back over here. So that basically means I can move these things together. Oops. A little bit closer together like that. Why are you separate, actually? Oh, right, because these are... right, never mind. So would it make more sense to do this vertically? I can move this to here. I can move this to here. And I can move this one to here. Yeah, I guess that works. Minimizes the amount of space that I have for sure. Trying to think of what I can do to further optimize this. I think that's good, honestly. So let's just kind of like move this into the center a little bit, give these things a little bit more of a breathing room. We'll just shove this over to here. Just try to make this as easy as possible. So something like that, I think, will be good. So this is our cut. This is our basil. These are our cavities. These are our sides. And they are blown up a fair amount, so hopefully that will give me some nice resolution. I could actually probably push them a little bit higher. So let's just kind of shove this over to the side. Grab these. Scale up just a smidge. So I'm going to put you here. Grab these, move this over to here, move this over to here, and move this up. Right, move this over to here. All right, so I think that's pretty good as far as UV layouts go. I think that's pretty much everything that we need as far as everything goes. So I'm a little concerned about this. These are truly massive, and I'm not sure if I can really get around that fact. So here's my concern. If we look at these, oh good, I already have lights turned off. So it's a little awkward, but you can see that like this has far less pixel density on its texture than this. Like this, the wood in this looks a lot finer, and that's fine to a point. It's problematic here because it just looks like these things are crunched down and they have no UV space, which they don't, to be honest. The new one will obviously because it's a little bit better in terms of scale, but it is a problem. Kind of mostly see it here. Like this one looks a little bit better, but not by much. All right, the main difference, honestly, is between these two because these are so massive compared to these. But actually, these will be kind of more in line, I think, moving forward. All right, so let's go ahead and save that, export that snapshot. Of course, you're gonna put me into a freaking stupid one. Overworld, woods, final. So it's overwrite. I'm gonna come back to here. Yes, we're gonna update. All right. So, we were pretty good, pretty close to where we thought they were gonna be. So these are the things that we're going to be working with Ivy in, and I need to just real quick grab these. Let's start moving these things around right about there. Hello, the real Kleinba. Welcome back. You are absolutely correct. This is a tree. It is a tree. It is an ancient tree. How are you doing today? We are currently focusing on re-UVing the ancient tree because it had a spelling error in its texture, and in order to fix that, I had to completely redo the texture. So let's go ahead and we're going to go down to cut. We're going to move this to about here. So that seems about right. Let's go ahead and tap that over to there. I think that's pretty good. Oh, how fun. So we're going to select this. Rotate that 90 degrees. Snap that down to here roughly. Let's try to get this lined up. All right. Same thing over here. We're going to rotate that. Oops. Cavity left, cavity right. Let's go ahead and rotate this 90 degrees. Put this down to here. Roughly right about there. Okay, that seems to be working. Doing good? That's good. It has been a it's been an interesting week art wise for me. I have not done Maya or Illustrator stuff in a while, so it's kind of fun getting back in touch with these techniques. So let's see here. Yeah, I really need to work on my audio setup. I actually have a much nicer microphone that I've kind of experimented with, but I haven't actually been able to use properly. And I think that's mostly a disciplinary problem on my part. I tend to default to my headset mic because it's a little bit easier for me to just kind of move around. But its noise gate is super, super aggressive, like you said. So it's not unusual for it to kind of like just truncate what I'm saying for the first good quarter of a second that I start talking. Uh, so because of that, I typically need to project a lot more if I want it to not do that, but I tend to forget about that. So I apologize for that. Unfortunately, that's something that's built into the mic. I don't really have a way to control that on this headset. Let's see here. So, okay. So our wood is now laid out, and now we can focus on designing ivy. And I have completely forgotten which one of these is which. So this is okay. So the bottom one is the three that go up to ancient. This is the two secondary, ones that go to tree, and these are the front ones. All right, so let's pop back here, and I'm gonna collapse all of this. We're gonna go ahead and get rid of trunk. Okay. What are you? We can get rid of you now. So I'm gonna lock this, and we're gonna keep it visible just so that I don't lose track of what I'm doing. And we need to keep in mind that these are our external bits of the tree, and these are the internal ones. And the external ones are also going to have ivy attached to them. So let's go ahead and we're going to come back over here to base 01. I'm going to drag this over to here. This is for the ancient tree. So I'm going to create a pattern that roughly handles. I'm going to actually let's rename these real quick. I'm going to call this base ancient. Okay, this is going to be base tree 01. Okay, and just so that I don't lose sight of that, move that over to here-ish. All right, so we're going to work on the base ancient to start. And I want this to, so I want ivy to largely be taking up the entire bottom part of the tree. Ooh, do I want to be fancy about that? Ooh, that's a good question. Sorry, I'm trying to think through how I want to texture this. I was just thinking about how moss grows on the north side of trees. I believe that's correct. I think it's the north side. And I was debating if I wanted to break out one of these UVs to be moss instead of ivy, but we might just keep it as ivy for now. All right. So let's go ahead and we need to have a fair amount. So this ivy needs to be sprawling and also connect to this ancient layout. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate this eye. Let's duplicate this eye. We'll drag it up to the top. We're going to just drag this over to here. We're going to duplicate this. Oh, why did I do that? I should have just deleted this and then duplicated all three of these. So let's duplicate these. We're going to just drag these over to here. Roughly right about there. I'm going to grab the V. I'm going to put that over to here. Drag Y. That might have been too aggressive. Because now I need to have... Well, actually, no, that might work pretty well. Okay, so we're going to duplicate these three again. Duplicate this section. We're going to drag these outwards. I'm going to grab this. So it's going to be I, V, Y. That is a little too close for comfort, so I'm actually going to move this. I'm going to move these all kind of down. I'll be doing some subpoint movements here, trying to bring these in line. The trick with these types of textures is I have to be simultaneously detailed and also keep in mind my patterns so that things don't look artificial, which can sometimes get difficult. So this IV is going to connect directly in the center for Ancient, so it's going to spread out from there. But that's not all we want. We're also going to have a couple of IVs probably like going off to here. So let's go ahead and duplicate these three again. Section. I'm going to drag this to about here now. I'm going to just do some minor alterations so that it isn't quite as aggressive in terms of what it looks like. And then I think we can fit one more set of ivy in there. So let's go ahead and drag that off to right about here. This is not going to, or this is not meant to connect to the right edge. I'm actually going to circle it back around. But I want it to look like it's somewhat organic in nature. So doing something like this should largely be fine. I might put you a little bit farther up right about there. A little bit further down right about there. Okay. So that's pattern 1. That's pretty good. Let's go for pattern 2, which is going to be in base tree 01. I am going to go ahead and grab this. I'm going to move it more... We'll have it start more sort of like center right-ish. And we're actually going to have it circle around like this. It's going to, nope, don't do that. It's going to circle to about here. Put this here. I do apologize, by the way. It's going to be a lot of texture alterations like this. And we're going to go ahead and come down to here. Fortunately, all we have left is the ivy. Once we have that laid out pretty nicely, then we'll be able to get into substance, and then from there it spirals pretty quickly. So I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to have this texture on the new or on the tree model by 9 o'clock. So let's go ahead, bring my mic a little bit closer, and I'm also going to take a drink. I should have done those in reverse order. All right, so let's go ahead and open this up. I'm going to grab all 3 of these. We're going to hit duplicate. We are going to drag these apart. I'm going to go ahead and have this kind of circle back around like this. So we want that ivy to kind of be like a dangling vine. It's not going to be growing up. That one actually just kind of curves back down on itself. Then we're going to duplicate those 3 again. Up. I'm going to come over to here, grab our Y. So you can see that it's, this ivy seems to be having trouble growing. That's fine though. We're going to go ahead and copy these again. Oh, shoot. That's not what I wanted. Duplicate this selection, drag it out. Double clicked on it too much. Okay, so we're going to come down to here, come up to here, right about there. So that looks pretty organic. Yeah, it's okay. I guess. I probably would have preferred to have this kind of end up over here a little bit. Because this one, I do like this one ending up on the left side somewhat more. Something like that. I'm not sure if we can really... I don't think we can get over to this right side with this design unless I move the eye over to here, at which point we'll have a pretty noticeable white spot there. Let's go ahead and try and do this then. I'm going to redesign this a little bit. All right, so we're going to put that here, drag you over here, drag you over here, drag you over here. That works a little bit better. This shape is much less organic, though. Okay. Well, that's all right, I think. I just don't like this eye. It just makes it look too stiff. Like, these have a sense of flow and curvature to them, but like this eye just juts up. Like, I almost want to just do this, actually. That actually might be a little bit better. Okay, so let's try to bring this down. Bring this. We'll have this curve a little bit up like this, something like this. And we're going to have this be right there. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. Now we got a nice little organic curve to it. Okay, beautiful. All right, so last one, we're going to do a design that has to end up at the same point here for this design, but we need it to also line up on the edges here so that I can put some ivy along these. So let's go ahead and duplicate this. Call this base tree. I guess I would call it entrance. We'll just say 0, 2, I guess. All right. I'm going to drag all of this. So that's kind of roughly in the same spot. But now I don't want it to. I don't want it to start in the same spot. I'm going to just kind of like freeform this from the center, I feel. Actually, I might do something like this. So I'll probably have the ivy be a little bit more zigzaggy, as it were. Ooh. Okay, yeah, I gotta do these in order. Oh my goodness. What just happened? What did I do? Okay, Control Y is not redo. Fun fact. Huh. Okay. Oh, right, this is Photoshop rules. Screw it. So we're going to say edit, redo move, edit, redo move. Okay. Sorry, I tried to, I didn't move these in order. I grabbed this Y instead of this Y. I don't like doing that for these. I try to keep everything, generally speaking, in order. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put this like right here. And then ivy. Which will... wrong. Kind of putting this in a little bit of an awkward spot. So it's probably all right. Let's go ahead and grab these again. We're going to duplicate this selection. That actually brings me pretty close to where I want to end, so I'm going to have to kind of tightly pack these a little bit more. Somewhere right about there. And then we're going to have to do something like this, which is a little awkward, and in fact, it's too awkward. I do not like that at all. Yeah, it's not okay. Um, hmm. I'm thinking. Um, yeah, those top ones are god awful. this this eye really needs to be over here.